out there, we're thinking first and foremost about our strategy. There's kind of three big elements to our strategy. Number one is to make hybrid IT simple. We have a core belief that the world will be hybrid. Everything's not going to disappear into the cloud. Not everything's going to stay in the data center. It's going to be a right mix. So we're going to talk a lot about this week about how we're advancing what we're doing to make hybrid IT simple. We're going to lay that out, and I'll talk more about that shortly in very simple terms, right? What that means. Second part of our strategy, right, is to power the intelligent edge. We believe that mobility and IoT really is where the future of innovation is going to happen. It's less and less going to happen in the data center and the cloud, and more is going to happen at the edge. A lot of exciting things that are happening there. And as a consequence, a lot of data is being generated from the edge as well. And so, that's starting to get us to think more about what are we going to do with all of that data in terms of machine learning and deep learning to drive artificial intelligence and things like that at the edge, to think less and less about, well, not just to think about getting insights from data, but also driving actions from data. So you'll be hearing a lot of stories about that. We'll talk a lot about putting IoT into action. You'll hear that phrase used quite a bit on the main stage. And then finally, having the services to bring it all together is the third piece of our strategy. And so a really big presence here around Point Next, really introducing our customers to that new organization, to the leadership there, to the experts. They're really integrated throughout the entire show. There has been some, because ES left, which is a different type of services business, has been spun out. There's a misconception that HPE is out of the services business, and quite the contrary. We're doubling down in terms of our advisory, professional, and operational services as customers are looking to transform IT to be more competitive going forward. So. That's in a nutshell, right? We'll talk about our strategy in those three areas, and you'll see a lot of themes come up again and again. Maybe what I could do is do a double click on hybrid and the way that we think about that and talk about that, or I could go to questions. It's up to you, Becca, how you guys want to do it. Double click. Let's talk about hybrid. So we say the world will be hybrid. Why do we believe that? Number one, we hear it from all of our customers. It's the reality that they're dealing with today. All the data that's out there says that customers have, and for the foreseeable future, are going to have traditional workloads in their environments. They are going to take advantage of different clouds and cloud services where that makes sense. They're building cloud-like environments. So it's just a reality, number one. Second reason that we believe the world's going to be hybrid is we're hearing from more and more customers that they are pulling some workloads back and data back from the public cloud. You'll hear the term the cloud cliff. A lot of customers are hitting the cloud cliff in terms of cost, performance, security and control, and they're trying to find that right balance, that right optimized mix between building on-premise and taking advantage of off-prem cloud where it makes sense for certain workloads. And then the third reason is, and what I'm excited about to be here today, is that innovation in the data center really hasn't stood still. The cloud has taken off over the last 5 years, and also over those last 5 years, we've seen dramatic decreases in flash cost. The all-flash data center is an affordable reality for customers today. Containerization was just a blip on the radar. No one was talking about containers. Now containers are in billions and billions of downloads and moving into the mainstream today. We used to be, if you wanted to build a data center, you better have a big checkbook, right? And now today we're enabling flexible consumption models, pay-per-use models, where you can actually start and affect your transformation much more simply. So those are the reasons that we believe the world's going to be hybrid. Customers are telling it, and they're hitting the cloud cliff, and innovation hasn't stood still in the data center. So that kind of leads us to, because of that core belief, everything that we're doing in our strategy is around to make hybrid IT simple, because it's not simple today. There's a lot of complexity in having to deal with and manage across that hybrid environment. And it's one of the things that our customers are telling us that, if you can solve that for us, it would be one of the biggest benefits that you could deliver. So we've been really focused on that, and really three ways that we're simplifying hybrid IT. Number one is we believe that it requires a right mix, and every single industry and every customer is going to have a unique right mix for their workloads, for their business goals, and where they're going. that right mix of infrastructure for their apps and data is something that's going to change over time. It's not going to be a static thing, right? So that's thus the investment in Point Next, and the Point Next advisory services are there to help customers understand what that current environment looks like, where they want to go, how to optimize those workloads. We help do the migrations of the data, of the applications. That includes retirement, turning some things off, and it's also a big part of our investment in our partner community to help work through customers. What is their digital transformation strategy? What's the right mix today? What's the right mix tomorrow? How can we keep that environment simple and flexible, right, as we go forward? The second way that we're making hybrid IT simple is a firm belief that hybrid IT has got to run on software-defined infrastructure. We believe that end to end, if we're going to have true compatibility and flexibility to move from an on-premise to an off-premise environment with fluidity and flexibility, we have to make that environment software-defined. That's why we're doing the innovations that we're doing around synergy. And composability. It's kind of taking software-defined to another level, really being able to compose in real-time environments for particular workloads. Compose them, build them up, tear them down, and recompose at will. And so synergy and one view, and then really driving that set of capabilities across the incredible workload-optimized portfolio that we have. Right, because we envision composability and software-defined as something that you're going to need for every workload. So that's why we're investing in edge computing. We're still investing in traditional mission-critical computing. We believe that needs to be composable over time. High-performance computing, hyperscale out. Traditional virtualized environments, hyper-converged infrastructures. The things that we're doing around high-performance computing and powering big data, all of those different systems that you'll hear about all week. I'm sure people will come in and talk to you about all of these, Apollo and Moonshot and on and on. Each of these are for particular workloads, but we have a common belief that all of those need to be software-defined. They need to be composable. So that's also what is driving our investments in some of the leaders in the industry in software-defined, such as SimpliVity and Nimble, and our partnerships with Arista, with Docker, with Mesosphere, are really bringing together an ecosystem that is we think finely tuned to make HPE really the leader and experts in software-defined infrastructure. All right, number three. Way that we're making it simple, really important, is to enable flexible consumption and delivery models. Right, that part of the allure of the cloud is the affordability to get started, and so you'll see a lot of talk this week about enabling new IT consumption models, starting with a financial roadmap for customers. And in fact, I just came out of a panel discussion. We had about 500 people in the room listening to 4 different customers describe their digital transformation approaches and strategies. And I think 3 of the 5 questions were about budget. How do I afford this stuff? How do I get started? How can I? All of my operating budget is consumed with keeping the lights on today. So how do I make that shift and transition? And there's a lot of great advice. I'd encourage you guys to tweet out that session when it gets posted, because it was really informative. Some really great advice from industry leaders about how to think about that. And so there's a couple of things that we're doing is, we do believe that we need to help shift from a capex to an opex consumption model. So a lot of the innovation that we're doing now is less in the silicone and it's more in the financial side of things. In terms of how can you enable a true pay-per-use type of experience in the data center, but with the advantages, right, of your own security and control inside of your data center, and performance and advantages, et cetera, things like that. So lots of different things that we're doing, including, you'll hear a lot of talk about flex capacity, which is sort of our flagship offering in that space. It's something that we've been building and delivering over the last 6 years. I think we've got over 400 customers that are deploying that in their environment today. And so, the way their end users look at that is they see that as simple and flexible, and they're just paying a bill back to central IT just like they would to with a credit card to the public cloud. And then another element to that is not just what we can enable through financial means, but flexible delivery. So there'll also be a lot of talk this week about our partner ready service provider program and our Cloud 28 community. These guys are really essential because we're partnering with them. You hear some talk later today on the main stage with Wipro. Wipro's building customer environments on Synergy because they believe in software-defined and composability. And now, they're going to be announcing later today some news where they're going to be integrating flex capacity as kind of a core offering for them. So they can really pair that and to their clients look and act like a very customized, differentiated cloud environment with all the advantages that you'd want of combining public cloud and on-prem.
So Jason, I'm going to interrupt because I think based on some of the conversations we had previously, how can we get past like the buzzwords of this conversation and understand that what HPE brings that's different? So if this was another vendor, some of this could have kind of applied the same way. So where's the differentiator and what does it really mean for the technologists in the group?
Well, yeah, go ahead.
He's got a mic.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more blunt because I am blunt. I need to understand how you guys differentiate, are different. I'll just use a word I know how to say. How you're different than Dell EMC.
Right.
Same message. I'm hearing the same message from Dell EMC. They have scale. I need to understand how you're better at executing your vision than a Dell EMC.
Well, I think the beginning of that starts with the clarity of the vision, of the strategy of what that company is all about versus where HPE is. I think that HPE can't be more crystal clear on what our strategy is. We make hybrid IT simple, we're here to power the edge, and we're investing in expertise to bring those together with our services and partners. Now, I challenge anybody, Jim Gantier, if you're listening, I challenge you to come out and give me a strategy statement as simple for the the Frankenstein that is Dell right now. There's a lot of, we all know, we've heard it, right? There's a lot of challenges with trying to integrate all of those different elements. I'd also say that that leads to another big differentiator between us and Dell, which is they're very tuned to there's only one answer, and by the way, it's called VMware because we own it. Right? Look, we're the number one, by the way, we are the number one partner with VMware in the world, even as of this latest year, right? I think that was announced the other day by VMware. It's not Dell EMC, it's actually us. But we're also one of the best partners in the world with where we think the world is going, which is containerization, right? So Docker and Mesosphere. So another big difference based on that strategy is that, hey, we're not here to push a particular agenda because it drives our bottom line necessarily, right? Of course, we want to drive the bottom line, but we're a partner in open ecosystem first and foremost. And we think that as challenging as the world is around us, you're foolish to say, this particular technology is going to be the winner, right, in 3 to 5 years, right? Because you need to have an open, flexible partnership model. So that's a second reason. And the third one, I know that they were talking a lot about consumption models because they've recognized the success that we've been having in that space, and that was really the first time that they came out and started talking about it. But if you look at what they're doing, all they're really offering are payment payment schemes very similar to kind of a traditional leases, and they call it flex on demand, or there's nothing, or flex cloud or something. There's nothing flex or cloud about anything that they're doing. Now, they're smart to recognize that that's where customers want to go, but they've got a lot of work to do to bring that to full fruition of where we're the maturity that we're at with things like flex capacity, where we integrate active capacity management. You get the services and support in there, and oh, by the way, we'll do it not just for HP gear, we'll do it for any gear that's in your data center. Dell is just looking out to lease their own stuff. So lots of differences. I could keep going, but there's tons and tons of differences in the way that we're fundamentally focused and operating and what we're delivering.
So as I'm looking through the calendar of coffee chats, some of the expectation is talking through the past year and a half, the gaps of the composable message to hybrid IT, to real world victories, to practical people process technologies of how HPE has moved the needle forward to the hybrid conversation, how nimble and simplicity play into the composable infrastructure conversation. Just, you guys have a lot of challenges. Some of my confusion is that HPE got smaller so that they could focus on hybrid IT. They acquired assets that on the surface don't integrate into that composable infrastructure for another couple of years. So as we get into the next couple of days and talking through the roadmap and how you're solving that hybrid IT problem today along with cloud providers, et cetera, I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think the old HP, it would have taken a couple of years to integrate those, but they're moving at incredible breakneck speed in terms of integrating SimpliVity and Nimble into our vision around composability. So the teams are already and have been for months already working very closely to bring those things and integrate, and we did buy them essentially for their intellectual property, that they brought ingredients to our composability vision. That it was a faster route obviously to go and purchase those and bring those in, but there's Rick Lewis and team have a very clear vision of where they're going. In fact, they're going to share some of the next steps on composability, what they'll call Project New Stack. And New Stack is really about taking all of those acquisitions with the property that we have in-house and bringing that together and integrating it.
I was going to say one point, Keith, to how fast we're moving. I mean, Nimble closed a month ago. Within the next week, you're going to see a reference architecture for a converged system with servers in Nimble. Not composable, that's going to take time. But it's going to be a converged system that's going to basically boot out the UCS product that Nimble has been selling, and it's going to be available in the next couple weeks. That's moving fast. So, I mean, I think things are happening, but I think you also need to give a little bit of room for engineering to do what engineering does. I mean, Nimble closed a month ago, SimpliVity closed 2.5 months ago. Things are moving fast. Well, and that's, I think, to the point of being smaller.
Right.
I mean, do you think that a Dell EMC that's got a PC business to manufacture and to manage and everything else, I don't see the advantage of a company like HPE whose focus is hybrid IT and the edge of having a PC business. Does that help enterprise customers having a PC business? No, I don't think it does. I think it slows them down. And in as much as anybody wants to say, they are a Frankenstein with all kinds of things that they have to manage. And I like the play that we have personally of being focused. I think that's a winning strategy.
Yeah, it's sort of. We all saw the video of the chopping the arms off the knight, getting smaller to compete, and I'm sort of like, yeah, well, no one ever got rich going $60 billion in debt either. So, both are kind of counterintuitive. They're clearly strategic choices, and our strategy couldn't be more different from Dell, and obviously we're confident in what we're doing, and seeing the results that we publicly put out there, right, Calvin?
Could you just drill down a little bit more into what you mean by software-defined and composable?
Yeah, I mean, we actually did do a video yesterday called Buzzword Bingo, where we were trying to double-click into that with Laura Mackey. It was fun, and Dana. But software-defined, essentially what we're saying is, we're trying to abstract as much of the complexity from the hardware layer as possible. Think about it as trying to automate as much of the tasks of taking care of infrastructure as we possibly can, trying to remove as much of the human operator element of the caring and feeding of infrastructure, and allowing the application to tell the infrastructure what it needs, when it needs, and then making the infrastructure smart enough so that it can respond to those requests, again, without breaking things and without human intervention. So that's, in a nutshell, I think where we're going, and I think increasingly as we through the acquisitions of Nimble, Niara, there's I think a shift from this concept of management through a single pane of glass with a human operator clicking around, to now, how do I teach the infrastructure in the data center, literally teach it to take care of itself, right? How do I apply machine learning and deep learning principles to the tasks of managing one of the most complex environments in the world, a data center? And I think that's what we're going to see the next big shift to happen is, we're going to be less about, trying to program things, perfectly, and making management simpler to simply teaching infrastructure to take care of itself. So when you have that fluid flexibility, that's why we say, as the world becomes hybrid, that the flexible pools of resources that you're running on need to be software defined, so that you can have not only the speed and agility of that, but you can build that in a data center that you can control and drive the security. So the main stage today, just to give you a little bit of a preview of that, or if you got a question, I can do that.
Just trying to get a sense of, I understand, your position about pushing more automation into the infrastructure and letting it tell the infrastructure applications tell the infrastructure what they need. How much of that can HPE or other companies do, and how much of that relies on a change in your customers' operational models and their skill sets?
It absolutely requires both. I mean, it's not going to be a technology-only answer for things. I think this is very much, what we're envisioning is the infrastructure that a DevOps environment or DevOps principal team would be asking for, right? It's the same stuff that is, we're all learning, from the public cloud as well, and we're pushing public cloud, and public cloud is pushing on-premise, and so, hey, let me think about this as a platform. Let me expose that platform to be controllable through open APIs. Those are the same types of things that, that's how everything in this room at some point is going to be, run and governed, and so, we're doing really nothing more than taking those same principles and saying, hey, how can we do that in an on-premise environment? What else can I help with? 4 minutes.
I don't want to monopolize if somebody else has a question, but I've got one more. I guess I'm wondering, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, but do you feel like a more software-defined and composable approach makes you more sticky with the customer or less sticky with the customer? Because, when it's software, it's, transmutable and changeable. You can move it, change it, do what you want. How does that affect HPE as a business?
I think we think about our business as if you solve problems, you make money. And, these are real problems that customers are articulating to us. And so, we're investing. I don't think we think of it necessarily as, this is a control point or whatever. We're a very open company as the new company. And part of that is, again, being small and focused means we can shift. I don't know. Maybe next year there's some new thing that's going to disrupt the container market that we don't even know about. So, we fundamentally believe we've got to go all in on this software-defined and composability element so that you can maintain that flexibility. It's more about responding to what customers want versus us sort of having a technology agenda. AKA let's go back to the differentiation of Dell, right? I'm not here to push a particular virtualization technology down everybody's throat. I'm not here to mandate everybody run a certain type of storage interconnect or whatever, because this world's moving too fast for those types of bets on old technology. So that's the way we look at it, and if we can deliver that experience to customers, we think that we'll make plenty of money and drive plenty of loyalty.
Jason, one of the things you said earlier I want to circle back on, you mentioned how businesses are now going towards hybrid and changing from capex to opex. HPE is traditionally seen as an infrastructure company. As people are going away from infrastructure, how is the company responding to that change?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, what we've been doing for 50 plus years as a company has always been about the apps and data. I mean, infrastructure exists for apps and data, and then outside of that, the outcomes that come from those apps and data. So I think we're still very focused on, as always, how do we help compute and analyze and support and secure the apps and the data, and whatever the best way is to do that for the customer to get value is what we're going to be all about. It just it is a reality. Then we call it the world where everything computes. It's going to run on something, right? And we believe that something's hybrid, and we believe that something, and that, by the way, we believe that extends out to the edge. We think more and more of that work's going to happen out at the edge. It has to, right? I don't want a self-driving car talking to cloud, right, and making decisions of whether I turn or not. If we stay true to our mission of thinking about how do we abstract the maximum amount of value from apps and data for our customers and enable the outcomes that they want to do from those apps and data, again, I think that will be fine. And so, today, that is focused on traditional infrastructure, but we see that world changing to a hybrid environment and an edge environment. So again, that's why we're making so many of the investments that we're doing.
So would you also have emphasis for the folks that are still buying infrastructure for the purpose of providing those cloud solutions, i.e. service providers and hosting providers, to give better, richer multi-tenant in addition to the composability.
Absolutely, and I mentioned that as sort of the third part of our approach to making hybrid IT simple is the flexible consumption and delivery models, and a huge piece of that are our service provider partners and communities. They bought in on software-defined infrastructure as well. They're building on the technologies that we're giving them, taking advantage of the flexible capacity and consumption models to offer to their business. And if that's what ultimately a customer wants, we're selling with and selling to those guys on a daily basis, and their success ultimately is our success. So it's all part of how the right mix is balancing and rebalancing as we move forward. Cloud 28 Plus is the community that started in EMEA. It's now a global company that, or global organization of companies that can really come in and versus kind of the commodity cloud of AWS, they can do some really differentiated things. And the community and collaboration, it's really amazing what they can do. A customer kind of throws an RFP out to the community and says, here's kind of what I'm thinking, here's the business I want to go, or the capability I want to go build. And multiple different elements will come together within that cloud community and join forces to build something really, really special. So tons of examples of that going on today. So a huge part of what we're all in on, and we believe that those differentiated cloud and service providers are essential.
So kind of building on that, when you go to IoT, when you go to the edge and private cloud, you still have to run on equipment. So
that's right.
When you talk about composable, do you care all that much what kind of equipment you run on? I mean, today it's Xeons and x86. You've got the machine out here running on ARM.
I think you do. And that's what we're hearing, loud and clear from a lot of customers that are hitting the cloud cliff and coming back is that there are enough instances for various workloads where they want something built and optimized. An example, with the intelligent edge, we talk a lot about EdgeLine, but I think what's really special about that is, it's a system that's built to be, anywhere in the world, right? And to bring, serious compute horsepower in a box that can connect a variety of different ways, that is ruggedized a variety of different ways, and can not only ingest traditional IT data, it can bring in operational data as well, right? And merge those two things together. So, I love SimpliVity and hyperconvert, but I can't just take a SimpliVity box and throw it and put it on a oil platform, right? And I can't just take a SimpliVity box and go, build a massive supercomputer that's gonna. You'll hear the story of Pittsburgh supercomputing and how they've taught a supercomputer to beat world-class poker players, right? I can't take a SimpliVity and go do that. I need something like Apollo and NVIDIA and GPU. So. And then if I want to keep running my stock exchange, I'm going to buy nonstop. So those are all very differentiated architectures that we do believe need to be composable, but we think the purpose of having those new forms of compute are going to be required. I think there's going to be, in a world where everything computes, there's going to be more and more demand for actually more different specific types of computing and than we have today. And so that's why I feel really good about our position right now, that we're investing in those right things with that composability and software-defined intelligence on top of it.